Hello, and welcome to Somewhat Damaged. Don't worry, you're in the right place. I'm still your host, Greg Alperin, and while the name may have changed, the unhinged and unfiltered comedy stays the same. Sit back, relax, and listen to the hot and fresh new episode. Buckle up. Hello, and welcome to the show. Figured no better way to start this one out with a little old school hip hop intro music to bring on our guest, Arron Weber, who's from good old Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, man.
And bring on our my co-host.
Well, that's what Nashville's known for is
it's definitely
hip hop music.
Definitely known for.
Hands down.
That was a little special treat for John B. John is the chief of staff and main head booker at Stand Up New York in New York City. Purveyor of finest hip hop. So what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm great, dude. I'm great. Just hanging out down here in Nashville. It's cold this morning. Trying to get used to that again. But other than that, man, just rocking and rolling down here.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. I was thinking about one of the last places that I was before this whole lockdown thing, and it was Nashville.
Really? What were you doing down here?
I was there for work. It was a conference that unbelievably had to do with GameStop.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I happened to stay. The hotel that I was staying in was right behind Zany's. Right.
Oh, okay.
I forgot that whatever that hotel is looked directly down at the back parking lot of Zany's.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And there was nothing there that night or the couple nights I was there. And I was really bummed because I would love to have gone into that club. But man, I love Nashville. Nashville's an awesome town, obviously.
Yeah, dude. It feels like one of the places to be right now. Like there's a real energy in the comedy scene. Like there hasn't been since I started. Like it really feels like a good place to be. So
yeah, and I mean, obviously we've noticed, and I've noticed that a lot of people are running through Nashville, and they have for a while now. Is that why you think it's kind of the scene is happening? Like just because you're getting a lot of acts that were coming through because it was open and like people felt comfortable coming there for whatever.
Yeah,
reason?
well, it was one of the few places that was open for a while, so that definitely helped. And then we've had a lot of bigger name guys move here and kind of have a presence at the club.
Yeah.
And the really cool thing is we've been doing these new material nights on Mondays where there'll be a ton of comics on it. And it's just famous comedians there hanging out. It's just a great hang. And it's really cool, man. I've never hung out at the Comedy Store, the Comedy Cellar, like those comedians, but I've heard that the vibe is getting there in a similar way where it's just comics hanging out all night.
It's an interesting thing, like that whole idea of new joke night. I mean, the Cellar does it. They were doing it on a consistent basis. In New York, you got Frantic, which is the show on Mondays. It's like a 10 o'clock show, but like anybody will drop in. Shay will drop in and some jokes on it, it's just one of those vibes and those scenes that like it has a good, like the hang is always there. Right. Nashville seems like a cooler place to do that just because like there's so much shit there. Do you know what I mean? Only thing I know about Nashville is the KFC, Nashville Spicy Hot, which is delicious. Shout out to our sponsors, KFC. I'll tell you this much. Nashville just has this cool vibe. Everybody's like, oh, you got to do a bachelor party down there. You got to do a bachelorette party down there. Like, what is the feeling like? Is there a little bit more fun? Is it a more fun town than like, let's say, LA or even Austin?
It's very similar to Austin. I've only spent a little time in Austin, but it is a very similar feeling where there's just a lot to do, man. I think we're the bachelorette capital of America. I think we passed Vegas.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've been to Nashville. Last year I was there, Nashville 3 times, right? And never on a weekend, only on like Monday through, I think I was there on a Friday one time. And it doesn't make a difference what day you go to. It's Broadway, right? Like that's
Broadway's the spot. Yeah.
And I mean, like a Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, there's a bachelor party, a bachelorette party.
They go by on these pedal taverns where there's these big bars that they wheel themselves around on. Yep. And the city tried to ban those for a while. And they weren't successful.
That's part of our culture.
Yeah. I mean, you'll see just I saw the other day, just like 20 people on the back of a John Deere tractor riding through the city. And I'm just like, oh, man. My favorite story is the NFL draft was in Nashville a couple years ago, downtown, right on Broadway.
Right.
And there was a news article about the bachelorette parties that booked their bachelorette weekend the same weekend as the draft unknowingly. And just all of Broadway was shut down because of it. So all these women showed up hoping to bar hop on Broadway, and they just can't get anywhere because there's just dudes with jerseys all over the place. I love that, dude. You got to research your weekend a little bit.
Yeah, right. Those dudes with jerseys probably were the happiest guys around.
I know. They loved it.
So John mentioned hot chicken. So what is your, I mean, are you a hot chicken like person, or is that a tourist?
To love it. Yeah. I've lived here. I lived in Nashville since 2008, 13
Right.
years. I moved here when I was in high school, and I've slowly begun to love it. It's a weird thing to get into.
Is it?
But yeah.
Is it?
Hattie B's is the big one.
Right.
That's the one everybody's heard of.
I heard about that one.
There's one right down the street from Zany's now, which is great. So anytime comics come through, they're like, we got to just stop by.
Yeah.
Hattie B's. But there's all these other little places all around. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I ordered in from that Hattie B's when I was staying in that hotel, right? And I'm like, I got to order some chicken, right? So I ordered it in and made the biggest mistake of almost any food mistake I've made. And they were like, how hot do you want it? And I'm like, just make it as hot as you can make it. Right. So, I mean, anybody listening that has had Nashville hot chicken, like in Nashville, knows what kind of mistake that is. And boy, did I pay. But I'll tell you what,
it's called Shut the Cluck Up.
Yeah. I don't know what it was.
That's what the hottest form of it is.
Painful. It was painful. Like
the medium will ruin your day.
It ruined 2 days.
And you got 3 levels above that. That's pretty crazy.
I only made that mistake one other time in my life where they were like, you shouldn't get something that hot. Mm-hmm. And it was at an Indian restaurant in New York City. And they were like, well, I ordered chicken vindaloo, right? Which is like the vindaloo is the hot Indian sauce. And the guy was like, how hot do you want it? And I'm like, I don't know, like an 8. And he was like, an 8? Nobody ever gets an 8. He's like, you should get a 3. Right. And I'm like, I'm not getting a 3. Like, I want to burn. And he was like, I can't in good conscience give you anything higher than a 6. And I'm like, I'm not going to dine here unless I get a 7. Right.
What's wrong with you, dude? I don't ask anymore.
Dude, they brought it out from 15 feet away. My eyes were burning.
Wow.
My eyes were burning. And I'm like, uh-oh, that's a mistake. So
some of these places will make you sign a waiver before you eat it. Did you have to sign something?
Not there, but I did one time have to sign a waiver to eat chicken wings.
That's when you're like, dude, if there's paperwork involved, maybe I should just get something else.
It's
mozzarella sticks.
It's true. It's true. It's like if you got to sign a contract that if you eat this, you're going to die in the restaurant or you may have a heart attack. Just don't eat it.
Yeah, I walk into some of these hot chicken places and you see the employees. This is pre-COVID, wearing masks and rubber gloves.
Yeah.
And like swimming goggles. And you're like, what is going on back there? And I get I'll eat whatever they're making, you know?
It's unbelievable. So before we
Arron,
get.
Are you touring right now?
Are
you on the road?
Yeah, I'm on the road wherever they'll have me. I'm in Huntsville, Alabama this weekend. Then I'm in Appleton the next weekend. I'm kind of just all over, man, wherever we got pretty lucky down here where the clubs are only really closed in the South for a couple months.
Right.
Really?
Last year, and then they were just kind of back at it. Reduced capacity still, but there's places
still good crowds.
Be.
I'm assuming though. I mean, they're wanting it. They're loving it. Obviously,
dude. The crowds when we started. I did my first weekend back after COVID in May last year, which was so early. Compared to other places, but the crowd was so awesome, man. They were just so pumped because they hadn't been out of the house in months, And I think it's still that way.
Is there a fear though? Like you're up there and you're slinging jokes and you got like 40, 50 people or 100 people in the audience and like, we don't have a vaccine yet. Like, was there a little apprehension?
Well, the clubs, luckily I did a lot of clubs that were doing all the right things. I've done some of the Funny Bones will have the glass partitions, plexiglass, and you're not doing a meet and greet. You're not meeting people. And at a certain point, I was like, dude, I'm not even headlining these shows, so the show's going to happen with or without me. So
Right.
Right.
I think I might as well be there and get paid. That was my thinking. But no, I never was too worried about it because I wasn't crazy about it ever.
So I just want to say before we get too far along, I want to
Yeah.
really introduce Arron, that he's part of the Nateland podcast for everybody that doesn't know who we're talking to, which would be insane to me. Yeah, it's a little podcast that who's the other host of that? Nate something or other?
Yeah, Nate, the Bargatze something.
Yeah, I can't pronounce that guy's name.
Some hack,
that amazingly has like 6 Netflix specials. He's part of that podcast.
Yeah, he's the best.
Which is obviously one of my favorite podcasts out. And going to one recent one that I listened to that a whole bunch of my friends who listen sent me like, have you heard their episode on Rhode Island? Right. And I'm like, no. And so they obviously directed me to it. And you guys do this whole little section in the show about the name Gregory.
Yeah.
Right. And Gregory. I have to tell you, I didn't know any of those stats.
Oh, right. About the states with the most Gregorys, right?
Right. And
wasn't it New Jersey?
Yeah. And guess where I was born?
New Jersey. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff we dig into.
Oh, you guys dug into it. I'm like, this
really hard hitting over there.
So, sometimes when we're done recording, I just look at all my open tabs on my computer and I'm just like, how did we get here, dude? I'm literally Googling. I have like one tab is open and it's like, how many Muslims are in the world? And then the next tab is like, how many Gregorys are in New Jersey? They're just the dumbest Googles ever.
I've still yet to meet a female named Greg. I haven't bumped into one of the 0.23 that exist in the world.
Yeah, more than you think. I would have thought 0.
Yeah, me too.
Arron, can I switch? Because I just want to talk a little bit about comedy and how you got kind of fixed in with it. Because I mean, I've lived in the bubble of New York City, in New Jersey and Philadelphia for the last 30 some odd years. So I'm very familiar on how it's easy to kind of go up and like doing up the mic and things like that. Where does that come from? I mean, being from where did you decide to start doing comedy? And
I joined a stand-up club in college where we would do shows for students like once a month. And I don't even count that when I'm asked how long I've been doing stand-up because it's accounting class is wild. And then like everyone goes nuts. It's like fake, it's just college students. So then I moved back to Nashville because that's where my family lived after college. And then I just started doing open mics around town. And I just got really lucky that Zanies is there. And I had no idea that it was a good scene and that I could actually, be a professional comedian there. I had no clue starting that. I just lucked out, because that's where my family was.
It's interesting because like obviously like is Zanies like they run an open mic, but are there other open mics around the Nashville area that people can hit up and like get onto, or is it like, I mean obviously in New Jersey like you do a mic in the city in Manhattan, it's like 4 or 5 o'clock, there's nobody there. There's mics in Jersey that you go to and it's like a full audience, what I mean, you're doing a tight 5 in front of an audience. How is it down there?
Yeah,
I mean, because you're also competing with music open mics as well, I assume, down there.
Yeah, there's a lot of music stuff going on, but a lot of venues are looking for a break from that sometimes. So the comedy will get their off nights. So before COVID, I could get up 9 or 10 times a week.
Wow.
Just stuff around town. And so there's open mics at bars and independent music venues, places like that. There's Zanies obviously, but then there's a club called the Comedy Bar here, and they give a lot of local stage time. And then there's a club called Third Club that's like an improv club where they do stand-up stuff. So there was no shortage of places to go up. I feel like if I were ever like I'm not getting up enough, then I would have looked into moving somewhere. But we were really rolling for a while, and that's starting to come back now. Like there are a bunch of open mics throughout the week now.
I mean, I got to ask how it feels like now that everything's coming back. I mean, you've been in comedy, how long you've been doing in comedy? I apologize.
6 years, not too long.
6
6 years
years.
this summer.
How does it
Yeah.
feel to be the Godfather, though, kind of in Nashville? You know what I mean? You're touring with a major talent, a national tour. You're on a wildly popular podcast, and you're 6 years in, and it's like people are coming to you and kissing the ring a little bit.
Oh no, I don't know about that. I always feel like there's like a tier above me of guys that I think about. Dusty Slay is a guy. I don't know if y'all know Dusty.
Sure.
Yep.
But Dusty was in Nashville when I started, and he was kind of that. My God, if I could ever get to that level, and maybe that's just the natural progression as you kind of start to become that for the next wave. I don't know, but I never feel that way. Really, I'm still pretty close with all the comics here, and it's a tight knit community. So I never feel like yeah.
You would come into New York City, and I mean, the questions that would be coming, like people just walking up to you at the bar and be like, "Hey," like you would be like Don Corleone. Do you know what I mean?
that sounds all right. Yeah.
That's just how it goes. It's like if you're doing well, and there are some that are like a little intimidated, or they're pieces of garbage, and just they're like, I think he got that luck. But the curious minds, they will like kind of be like, oh my gosh. And I mean, it's fun watching, like somebody like come into town, like let's say like a Matt Rife, from LA, who's been comedy for about 8-9 years, but like there's comedians there that like for 2-3 years, and literally people are just like flocking to him and just being like, so how do you do it? And it's funny to me because, and no offense you guys, but it's like you've got Sherrod Small sitting at the other end of the bar,
for sure,
sitting next to Jamie Lee over there. Like you could ask them as well.
Yeah. No, I get that for sure. It's not lost on me that I'm very lucky that just for whatever reason, I was in the right place, the right time. I got like 5 people that are nice enough to take me on the road with them. I've just gotten super lucky in that way.
Who was the first one to take you out on the road?
Dusty Slay was the first guy.
That's
we became friends, and he would take me on the road. And then a guy named Henry Cho, who
Sure.
lives here in Nashville. Henry Cho takes me on the road. I'm with him this weekend.
Oh, that's cool.
Kathleen Madigan, I get to go on the road with her sometimes because she lives here. John Christ is another
awesome
guy who lives here, good friend of mine. I opened for him, and
yeah, you know what? I'm surprised.
Yeah.
John was just out here in Connecticut. I'm based in Connecticut.
At Bridgeport, right? Yeah,
Yep. Yeah. Were you on those shows?
No, I'm opening for him in Appleton next weekend, but I wasn't on those shows.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm sure they would have told me if you were out here.
Mm-hmm.
So how'd you get hooked up with Nate?
I met him at an open mic here in town because one of the coolest things was when Nate had a Tonight Show set.
Right.
He would come to Nashville and he'd run it at like every show in the city leading up to it. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, everybody just got to see Nate pop in and run that set. And we just met just outside of an open mic. And then I opened for him like a few years ago in Tampa. And we just had a little bit of a friendship. I'm really good friends with Brian Bates, who's on the podcast with me. And he's a longtime friend of Nate. So I just kind of got to know him from that. And then I got a call out of the blue from him. Do you want to do a podcast? And I was like, yeah. Yeah, I would like to do it. So it's crazy. It's just I don't know how I just fell into place.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
to kind of like, I mean, listen, Nashville, like you just said, is building its own scene. Is there any desire to kind of move out of that area and move on to somewhere else? Maybe Austin, which is another bright scene, LA or New York City?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Austin, I feel like is I might get some flack for this, but I feel like Austin is more of a lateral move from Nashville than New York or LA would be right now. That's just how I feel about it. I definitely want to have more of a presence in all those places, but I've thought about it a lot for sure. Yeah. But I'm working the road. I'm working every weekend. I'm living as a comedian. So it's kind of like, I don't know if somebody could make an argument to me for sure for that. And I would be open to it and listen to it. You know, I mean, no, they're not clamoring for me to come there. It's not like people are fighting for me. You got to get to LA, dude. Nobody's asking me to go to LA. but if I was ever given a reason to consider it, I definitely would.
Yes. I love that that you're a working comedian and you're making a living as a comedian. Do you and I'm fascinated by the story of when you said to yourself and you had enough dates in the calendar that you're like, I don't need to go to my 9 to 5 anymore. Do you remember that moment?
For sure. Yeah. Man, that was a big moment because what happened was I had a job that let me work remotely. So it was kind of the perfect situation where I could kind of go on the road whenever I wanted. And then that job stopped paying me for about 6 or 7 months. And a lot has gone down with the company since then. But I just kind of looked up one day and I was like, oh, I'm already doing it because my job isn't paying me. So I was like, all right, now I got like a test run being a full-time comedian without officially being a full-time comedian. So I was like, all right, now I'm out of this for sure. So I quit that job and then just kept doing comedy.
How long ago was that?
That was September of 2019.
Oh, so not, I mean,
yeah. And then, 6 months later, COVID hit.
Right.
Got it.
And then you start to be like, what did I do?
It's funny. It's like you have that.
Yeah.
You have that safety net, obviously. And I hear a lot of comics. I mean, I see the comics, whether it's LA or New York, and they're doing catering jobs and shit like that. But there has to be that moment, and especially to have that moment, and not being, and maybe I'll get some flack, but not being in the big leagues of there, but working, and it's awesome that there's a great community. You still you feel and it sounds like you're very humbled by the whole experience.
Yeah. Well, comedy will humble you pretty quick, man. I feel like if you get an ego, it'll be ripped away from you pretty quick. Like, I don't know. One of the coolest things is to see a comedian that is great do badly. And then you're like, oh, like it's never, you're always just a few words away.
So I feel awesome.
Yeah. But the safety net thing, it was like, I for sure had a safety net. And then one day I looked down and I was like, oh, that net's been gone for 6 months.
Yeah.
So let's just get
rid of it. It's a good feeling that walking across that tightrope and being like halfway across already. Yeah. And then getting the soup of COVID. I mean, there had to be a little bit of uncertainty when that happened.
Definitely. Because, dude, we knew, I mean, it's hard to remember now. It was a year ago. We knew nothing about it. I kept hearing, we'll be back, in the fall. And then the fall came, we'll be back 2022. And it's like, my God, like, what is happening? I don't know. Just stuck through it. I feel like things are getting back to normal now. That's how it feels down here. I don't know how it feels in that part of the country, but.
Yeah, it's actually pretty wild that, I'm in Connecticut, it's like a world away from New York City with how they've managed the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
But as of a couple weeks from now, Connecticut's wide open, like no more restrictions, no more social distancing, no more capacity issues. So everything is, come May 19th, we'll be fully out there. So,
that's great, man.
Clubs could be full capacity. At least that's how everyone is reading what they came out with the other day. So, we'll see how that sticks. And, it's obviously a good sign that, the summer could see some back to true normal.
And do you feel like people are ready to get back out and come to shows and things?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've been promoting shows out here in Connecticut since August, obviously limited capacities, but, and it's bounced back and forth between, 100 people to 50 people to 25 people to now it's back to like 50 people. And, so it's pendulumed back and forth a bunch, but we were only truly shut down like for nothing for a couple, maybe 3 months.
Okay.
So as far as, doing things.
That's good to hear. Cause when the South kept getting flack for look at all these people coming out to shows and disregarding. And then it's like, dude, y'all would do that if you could.
Right.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hands down on that.
Yeah.
Like we did shows in the park over the summertime and those were packed. I mean, we had 125 people in Sheep Meadow at one time watching, stand-up comedy, and yes, it wasn't inside, but if we had the availability, I bet you 1,000 times %. Yeah. But then what happens is that you get the these little pests, that these journalists, they have these, 2-bit things to say. And, it's bothersome because, you're chastising comedians for doing their art. And not only that, but this is how they make a living.
Right.
And this is how they're putting food in their mouths.
Right. Well, the people that got mad about it don't understand that aspect of it.
Right.
Sure.
Like that this is an actual job.
Yeah. Do your family think it's a job for you? Are they supportive? Are they at that point?
Yeah, I feel like I've been pretty lucky about that. They've been supportive. My parents are teachers, so they've never been like, you got to make money. So,
They know the rub.
No, they get it. My mom was a musician for a while, so she understands like the desire to be on the road and stuff like that. So I've been pretty lucky about that. They've been supportive for sure. It took them, it was a while before I invited them to a show. I was smart about that, where I was like, it's got to be a real show. I'm not dragging the family to an open mic.
Yeah, right.
And I gotta know that I'm gonna do okay.
So what show is it? Was it an Opry show?
They saw me. Oh no, that was a while. They saw me open for Emo Phillips.
Oh wow.
At Zany's.
That's a interesting bill.
Yeah, they were. They didn't research emo at all. So they were like not quite sure what's going on with this guy. But that
no
was
one is. No one's quite sure what's going on with that guy.
He's so smart and so funny, but it's just so different than anything else you'd ever see.
Yeah. It has been. Always has been. I mean, that's since the jump with him. You're listening to another episode of the Somewhat Damaged Podcast, part of the Storic Media Podcast Network, and brought to you by Corona Premier, now available on draft. So let's talk about the Opry for a second. Like, how did that whole thing come about? And being the first, right? You're the first comedian to ever do anything there.
The youngest.
Right? Youngest. Okay.
The youngest, and they're starting to incorporate comedians more, which is really fun.
Right.
I did a show. It's another one of those just right place, right time things. I did a show at Zany's. Brad Paisley did a show that I submitted a video for, and he picked mine. And I did it with Dusty Slay and Greg Warren. We were the 3 comics on it.
Right.
And the show went great. And I meet a guy after the show. His name is Dan. And he says, one day maybe you'll perform at the Opry. And I go, all right, great. And I don't think about it. I'm like, this guy's just being nice. 2 years later, that guy is the president of the Grand Ole Opry.
Wow.
He gets promoted. So I get an email out of the blue from him that says, do you want to perform at the Grand Ole Opry? I said, yeah. And it shows just out of nowhere. And then a month later, I performed there. And now I perform there 5 or 6 times.
So
Is
it your own show, or is it part of
it's a big showcase,
right? So it's
all musicians and then 1 comedian,
right?
And it's live radio, so they're very particular about time.
Sure.
So what the comedian will do is you just do as long as we need you to do to get back on schedule.
Got it.
Which is super stressful as a comedian. Like they tell you, you have an 11-minute set. So all week I'm like, I got my 11 minutes exactly. And then I show up and the stage manager's pushing me out on stage and he goes, get off at 8:53. And then so I'm like walking out. Hey, everybody, like trying to, I got to do 4 more minutes than I thought of, which is
right.
So just that baptism by fire is the best way to put it. But
how are those
audiences? So cool, man. They're awesome. It's reduced capacity now, but it's still like 1,100 people.
Yeah.
Because it's normally 4,500 or something.
Right. Yeah.
They're all wearing masks and they're spread out, but they're great, man. They're so excited to be there.
Right.
A lot of it's people, they come to Nashville. This is their vacation, is to
Sure.
go see the Grand Ole Opry.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. 100%.
It's pretty special.
The Grand Ole Opry. I mean, it's great that they're bringing comedy. I mean, Smothers Brothers used to do like online, not online, excuse me, but radio sketches and front live from that stage. So it's nice that like comedy is playing a part with that again. Does it seem different though that you're doing a comedy set in the middle of music though? I mean, Jim Brower is famous for doing like opening up for Metallica.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, is there a disconnect when they're just like, all right, we're off the air in 3, 2, and then you're all of a sudden you're being pushed on stage kind of do, relationships are weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I went to McDonald's, they just heard like a country music Hall of Famer. And then I walk out, hey guys, my shirt fits weird. Yeah, it is. They do a great job. I think the contrast actually helps because it's such a break from what the show is. Usually it's like 3 acts in. So 3 different acts and then a comedian will go, I'll just do like 12 minutes or however long. And I think the contrast helps. They do such a great job setting it up. The announcers at the Opry are so good. There's this guy, Bill Cody. He's just got the best Southern voice. And every time he introduces me, I'm like, oh, man, it gets me fired up. So he does he'll be like, how many people out there are from Alabama? Nuts. And he goes, we've got an Alabama boy. Very, very funny. Please welcome him, And so they set you up so great.
You got to get that. You got to have them set. You got to use that like when you tour.
Yeah.
Like, Derek Jeter, obviously he's not playing anymore, but the Gene Merrill, I think, was the old announcer from Yankee Stadium who announced for like 75 years, was the house announcer at Yankee Stadium. And when he died, while Derek was still playing, every time Derek would go up to bat at Yankee Stadium, they would use his announcing of Derek Jeter, not the guy that was the new house announcer. And he had this very specific way of announcing Derek Jeter. And the second it came on, like the crowd would just go friggin' nuts because it was Gene Merrill, announcing Derek Jeter.
I need to get the audio from Bill Cody bringing me on stage and just play that everywhere. Yeah. What's your walk-up song? I'll send you an MP3 real quick.
So who's the biggest country act you've had to follow coming out at the Opry?
Do you follow country? Do you know a lot of the newer guys, or is it just?
I mean, I don't follow it. Like, I'm not a huge follower. No, I mean, I know enough.
Did you say Eric Church?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to do a show with Eric Church. No, there's I'm trying to Ricky Skaggs. Some of these
old guys.
Legendary. I did a show with Ricky Skaggs, which was crazy.
Wow.
And then Old Crow Medicine Show.
Sure. Yeah.
Wagon Wheel.
Yeah.
Just big bands like that. And then I'm now learning about this older generation of country music that I didn't know anything about.
Like who?
Janine Seeley. I've done a ton of shows with her. Lori Morgan.
Yeah, I don't know that either.
Yeah, they're like these legends, from years and years ago that are still killing it at the Opry. So I'm just learning about them.
Yeah, the guitar player, I think he's the guitar player, the bass player from Old Dominion is from our neck of the woods out here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Old Dominion. I think Old Dominion plays there quite a bit.
I'm sure they do. They tour with Kenny Chesney a lot. Like that's how they kind of got, I guess.
You know how good the house band is at the Opry? They're like, what do you want your walk-up song to be? And I go, well, what can you guys play? And the guy just looks at me and goes, I mean, we can play anything. I was like, they're just so good, dude, that they're like, you're not going to stump us, dude.
So what was your song? What was your walk-up song?
I just said play whatever. And they play Walk the Line by Johnny Cash when I walk out, which is great. I just said play whatever. But one of these days I want to come in. I want to find some just crazy song and try to stump them and be like, oh yeah.
And I got it, DeVita.
Slayer. You should be like, can you guys play Rain in Blood by Slayer?
Yeah. Flight of the Bumblebees, Bluegrass Edition. Hit me with that.
I just fucking Charlie Daniels sing it.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So
it's just, but you played there 5 times. Like, they're not putting you on. Like, they're just like, I'm going to play this song about my mama who I just lost to cancer last month. And I was like, bring out this comedian.
Yeah, that's what they do. For sure. But I'm telling you, the host is so good that he will reset it in a way that won't matter. Because he'll come on between the acts and just segue perfectly into it. So it's never been a problem. It is a little jarring when I'm standing on the side of the stage and there's just some legend, telling a story,
right,
and killing. The musicians always get pretty easy laughs.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
They'll be like, man, this guitar won't stay in tune, and the place just goes nuts. And then I'm back there like, come on, dude.
They haven't even heard my McDonald's story yet. So wait, so I really have a question. I'm dying to know the answer, and there has to be some tongue in cheek involved in it. So your website is still a MySpace page.
Yeah. It's actually a WordPress site that I built to look like a
MySpace.
2004 era MySpace page.
Right. So I was trying to figure it out. I'm like, okay, is this really a MySpace page? Like, what is going on here?
Look, it might be a horrible business decision.
Up right now.
Yeah, pull ArronWeberComedy.com. I got my top 8 on there. I think I'm online now.
Is Tom in your top 8?
Tom is in the top 8 for sure. I think the Goo Goo Dolls are on my top 8, and then just some venues and festivals that I've done. I just wanted to do something different because I can build websites. I have for a while.
Right.
And I think people are nostalgic about this early era of social media.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I stumbled into, I must have kept a screen grab or something of the very first web page I ever like built for anything. Yeah? And it was like on AOL in like the early 2000s or something, right? Yeah. And it had like those terrible like circular GIFs that would like, right. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Right. Like we should republish this.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw yours.
Should look up Space Jam. The movie Space Jam still has its original website up from 1998.
Wait,
I believe.
So I heard that they just changed it because the new Space Jam is coming.
Oh, that would be a real shame if that's what happened. They can't keep the old website up. It was it's like an art. Dude.
Was it archival?
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, they took it down. How about that? Man, what a shame. Who do I write? I'm going to call a senator. This is
call Schumer. Call Howard.
Not Schumer. You gotta call Newsom.
Okay.
Newsom. Call Newsom and be like, dude, you gotta do something else.
Well, I'll Google who my senator is, and then I'll email.
That's a good idea.
You guys are lucky. All your senators and congressmen are famous. Ours aren't. So I gotta look these people up.
Hey, it's better. Like better to keep them non-famous.
I know.
They're probably doing.
Wasn't that great when you didn't know anybody?
I know. Like it's unbelievable. I sat on a plane once with Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
And he was a dick. He was genuinely a dick. Like he was looking for all the attention the entire plane, 6 hours from Los Angeles back to New York, kept standing up.
Your arm is on my side. If
like,
you could just,
I'm like, wasn't just walk up and down the aisle and just introduce himself to every one of the 300 freaking people on this plane? Like that's what he's going for.
Oh man.
Anyway,
hey, not off topic. Arron, did you celebrate 420 yesterday?
No, I did a TED Talk last night on 420.
Wow.
So I needed to be really weird that I did a TED Talk. I understand that.
Can you elaborate a little bit?
It was they had TEDx Nashville and they wanted some comedians. So they reached out to me and Dusty Slay both did a TED Talk. And so that was on 420. So that was my whole day. So I didn't want to get in the wrong mindset.
Yeah.
Did you at least slug a couple drinks afterwards with Dusty?
Yeah, we hung out. I mean, we were hanging out all day, but I don't know. It's weed. I mean, it's legal in Connecticut and New York.
Yeah.
And,
no, New York it is. You're allowed to carry it. And I don't think that's the same down with you guys, is it? Yet?
No, dude. I think it might be decriminalized in Nashville, but statewide, it'll be one of the last states.
I just, Arron, talking to you, it's like, in the game for 6 years, you're still going to open mics, you're touring nationally, you're on a worldwide famous, you're doing fucking TEDx talks. You know what I mean? Just killing it, baby.
Hey, we'll see if the TED Talk goes anywhere. They might not want to put it up.
You better put it up. I'm going to call my senator if they don't put that TED Talk up. I'm going to call Ted. Whoever the hell Ted is, I'm calling him.
That's why we met the guy running it last night, and I was like, "Is this Ted? This might be him. I think Ted's here."
Better chance his name is Greg. And from Rhode Island.
So in New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So before we roll, I do want to bring up that your album, your new album.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
I recorded it in September at the club. It came out in March. It's my first ever anything that I put out. So it's been fun just to have something out. And then hopefully that forces me to write some new stuff.
Right.
That was like, that'll be the best thing to come of it. Is just, I've been doing this material for a while, and it's like, let's just unload it.
Right. Yeah, it's called Shirts and Skins, right?
Shirts and Skins, because that's when I quit playing basketball. When we started doing shirts and skins.
Me, you know what, dude? So did I. Literally, so did I. I'm like, I am not playing a Shirts and Skins game.
Cheerleaders in the same gym at practice. I'm like, I'm not doing this, dude.
Exactly. And you know what's funny? It's very similar. Like, you have that whole bit about breaking a chair, right? Yeah. And I've never actually broken a chair, but I have that same fear.
Oh,
right?
Really?
Like, I have that same fear, and I look at every chair that I'll go sit in, and depending on that, that the size of that chair or what kind of chair it is, like, it does always go through my mind, like, I mean, that chair doesn't look that well made. Like, I don't know.
But there's no way to recover from it. Like, if you break a chair, you can't get up and go, oh, that was the chair's fault. It's like, no, this is the first time it's broke. People have been sitting in it for a while now. It's not like you sat on an already broken chair.
Right.
You broke it.
Yeah.
There's no recovery.
It's so I have the same thing goes through my mind when you walk into a restaurant where the tables are really close together.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to pick which seat you got to sit in. And every time I get up to go through, like, am I going to knock that person's glass or plate off their table with my ass as I go, like whittle my way between the two tables?
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Oh, you just, oh man, I respect it.
I
respect it too.
I mean, first of all, I'm a chair guy. I will choose the chair over the booth any day.
Me too.
That's me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, but if I have to squeeze in, I think the funniest that I've ever seen somebody break a chair was I was working at a radio station when I was in college, and we were backstage at like Z100s, like they're like the big
Jingle Ball.
Jingle Ball. And this girl is getting hammered, absolutely hammered. And Billie Joe Armstrong is over there, and she's like this small little petite girl, but she sits on this table, and the table was like, I guess the one side fucking flapped up, and fucking flew in the air, like the everywhere. And I remember she put her hand out for Billie Joe Armstrong to help her out, and he fucking walked away.
Welcome to paradise.
Wow. Man, to do it in front of a celebrity, and then that's pretty crazy.
Oh my God.
I'll tell you, Henry Cho and I, after shows, we always go to a Waffle House or an IHOP. And I remember we went to a Waffle House, and he was like, there's a booth open and a table open. And he's like, you want to take the table? As in, like, the booths are pretty tight. He was just being nice. Like, and I remember thinking, if I'm too fat to sit in a Waffle House booth, then I can't have, I can't do that. So I go, no, the booth is fine. And dude, I'm sitting there the whole meal, and he kept being like, you sure you're okay? I was like, oh no, I feel great, dude. I'm just getting pushed in by this Waffle House table. And I was like, I go, all right, good night, man. I get in my car, and dude, I just have a bruise going across, just a line across my stomach. And from that point on, I'm like, you know what? I'll just take a table if I can. There's no shame in it. Let's just sit at a table.
No, I never ever pick the booth. Like, it's always a mistake.
I mean, listen, before we go, Arron, we always ask this question. Greg likes the question, but what was the best thing you ate this week? And I mean, it could be anything. It could be, somebody said like that it was good for their soul. No, I want to what tasted the best.
Oh, dude.
You know what I mean?
I get this, I'm doing this thing where I only eat for 4 hours a day.
Oh, intermittent fasting.
Yeah, which is, I've lost like 35 pounds the last couple months. On that, buddy. Thank you, which is great, but it's like, that 4 hours is, there's so many other hours in a day.
Yeah.
It's
20 actually.
You don't think about that, but man, there are so many other hours. But I get this Kaneka sausage, it's called. I get it at the grocery store, and it's just this Cajun sausage with some kick. And I slice it up and I just cook it on the pan, and it's the best thing in the world, man. I'll eat a whole, I don't even know what you call it, tube. I'll eat a whole thing of sausage.
Now, are you
I could
doing
eat
like
it every day.
doing dieting with intermittent fasting? Do you get any carb with that? Like,
I'm just trying not to eat bread and stuff like that. I'm not being too scientific about it because I know that I'll fail if I start to, if I go, I'm doing keto. I don't even know what that means, but I just know bread is bad. So I'm just like, let me just not eat. So I'm just eating meat and cheese and vegetables.
Right.
Essentially.
You know, there's an Instagram dude, and if I remember, I'll hunt it down and I'll send it to you. He's an intermittent fasting like guru.
Yeah.
But of course, he's like ripped, you know, muscle head ripped, like no fat on him whatsoever.
Doesn't need to intermittent
fast, but he does. And the stuff that he eats in a day, and he posts it all on Instagram, like, and you'll watch him eat 2 pizzas, 2 birthday cakes, 44 tacos. And I'm like, that's bullshit. I've done it too. I've done intermittent fasting for years.
Yeah.
And I'm still 235 pounds.
What's your, oh God, I would love to be 235.
But I'm 5'9". I'm only 5'9". So it's, if I was 6'3", it'd be fine.
I want to see that guy fail. I want to see his fall from grace.
Yeah,
like
me
the
too.
One,
yeah.
then like he snaps his leg and he's fucking wheelchair bound and he just blows up to like 450. And I just want to fucking fuck you.
Right. I got a buddy named Connor who's a comic who's very funny, very handsome, and he always talks about how he used to be fat. And his fat would be like, I would love to get to where he was.
Yeah.
And he always talks about it. And I just tell him, God, I hope you get so fat soon. I would love for you to just gain 100 pounds.
You know, it's funny. I had a doctor's appointment a couple of weeks ago, and I was asking him, I'm like, you know, I really need some real good advice on how to lose like 30 pounds, right? Because I've done everything. Like, I'm an avid gym goer. I box and spar 3-4 days a week, right? Like, I'm burning. I mean, I sweat. Ridiculous. It's disgusting. And I can't lose 30 pounds. So he's like, oh, you're probably just predisposed to be like that. I'm like, okay. He's like, what did you weigh in college? And I'm like, well, I recall weighing like 190. And he's like, oh, so you've always been a pretty thick guy. And I'm like, what? I'm like, hold on. So I pull out a picture of me in college on my phone, and I'm like, look at this. Is that a thick guy? And he looked at me and he was like, yeah, kind of. And I'm like, I wore a 34 jeans. I was in like a medium large shirt. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? What size is a normal person supposed to be?
That's so funny to go to a doctor. Hey, I'm trying to lose weight. I think you're just meant to be fat. You're like, what? I used to be skinny. Nah, I don't believe it.
You know, and I told my mom this story, and I'm like, you know, can you believe this? Like, I showed him this picture, and I thought that was like super trim, thin. Yeah. And she's like, well, you know, when you were younger and we used to have to take you to the store to buy clothes, like your jacket from graduating 8th grade, I had to take you to the Husky section. I'm like, what?
Yeah, you didn't know. That's good. She hid it from you.
Oh,
God damn it. Whatever. Anyway, on that note.
There's a lot to unpack there. First of all, why do you have a picture of yourself in college on your phone?
I was going to say, it sounds like it was your wallpaper, man. You just held up your phone.
It's the best picture I've got.
I have pictures of me from high school, and I'm like, I didn't know it I was in the best shape of my life, and I had no idea.
Right.
And I'm just like, God, if I could go back to that.
I know. That's my point. That's what I was saying. I'm like, if I could get back to this, like, you're still calling me fat, doctor. Like, screw you, buddy.
It's over for us. Forget it. Fuck it.
I know. I'm throwing it in. I'm just going to eat bacon until I explode.
I'm flying down to fucking Nashville. We're going to get some chicken hot.
That sounds good, dude. Yeah, when y'all come down, let's get some hot chicken. Not at
sure,
KFC.
man.
Not at KFC, dude. We'll get the real McCoy.
Yeah, we'll get that. herbs and spices.
So listen, man,
Yeah.
thanks a lot. Obviously,
dude, thank you, guys.
everybody knows where to find you. We'll list it and all this stuff. But if you're coming out this way, obviously John will talk to you about the club, and we'd love to see
I
you
have 3
here.
shows
I'd love
a week
to, man.
right now, so yes, I'll put you on anything.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope I can get up there soon.
All right, guys.
For
Absolutely.
sure.
Thanks,
Y'all
Aaron.
the
Man.
best. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.